So what remains is to look at the final part of the poem. We've now looked at the first two parts of the poem, and we're left with the final section. First part of the poem is who gets invited to the bird funeral and who's not allowed to come, and what jobs the birds have. And the second part is how illogical the love is, at which point logic just gives up and says, you know what, you guys win. Logic is worthless, love is supreme, and logic has the song to sing about love. And it's one of the things Shakespeare does here is he changes the pattern of rhyme, which I really like. So the poem has been four lines per stanza. Threne, dove, love, scene. It rhymes A, B, B, A, right? Threne and scene rhyme, and dove and love rhyme, and that's true for all the stanzas, right? That the first and fourth rhyme and the middle two rhyme. But now the poem changes shape. It becomes 3 lines per stanza, and all 3 lines rhyme with each other. Nest, breast, rest. Rarity, simplicity, lie. It's a little, but it rhymes. So this is the final part of the poem in which reason, this is spoken by the god of logic or whatever, the personification of logic. And reason has this to say about these dead birds. Beauty, truth, and rarity, grace and all simplicity, here enclosed in cinders lie. Death is now the phoenix nest, and the turtle's loyal breast to eternity doth rest, leaving no posterity. 'Twas not their infirmity, it was married chastity. Truth may seem, but cannot be. Beauty brag, but 'tis not she. Truth and beauty buried be. To this urn let those repair that are either true or fair. For these dead birds sigh a prayer. It's a neat poem. So beauty, truth, and rarity. And beauty and truth are extremely important. If you know Keats, he's very famous as a poet from the 19th century, very famously said, beauty is truth and truth is beauty. Keats was a big Shakespeare fan, and I really think he got a lot of shit from this poem. Beauty, truth, and rarity, grace in all simplicity, here enclosed in cinders lie. So the idea here is that these birds were so beautiful and so true to each other, so faithful, so constant in their love, that when they died, beauty, truth, and rarity died everywhere. That essentially it's like they were the perfect lovers, so that when they die, there's no such thing as love anymore. It's a very, it's a very dramatic thing, but they were the first. They were sort of the purest embodiment of these ideas. It's basically like if these two aren't in love anymore, if they're dead, then there's no love anywhere. Beauty, truth, and rarity, grace, and all simplicity, here enclosed in cinders lie. So they're enclosed in like when somebody gets cremated, you put them in an urn. So they're enclosed in an urn. And John Keats has a famous poem about an urn. So in the urn, the sort of ashes of the birds are in there. Now, what did the birds die of? Well, the phoenix's whole thing is that he bursts into flames. So it seems like they died. They were together and they burned up together, and now their ashes are in this urn. And the bird is and reason's giving a speech about it. All right. Death is now the phoenix nest, and the turtle's loyal breast to eternity doth rest, leaving no posterity. So the phoenix doesn't have the phoenix nest is now death because the phoenix is dead, and the turtle's breast, its heart, is dead because they're both dead. And they're both resting in eternity, leaving no posterity. They have no children. They didn't leave any children behind. It was an idea in Shakespeare's day too that you would sort of live forever through your children, and that beautiful, true people, should have children so that these ideas will live on. They live on in their children. But interestingly, the two birds didn't have any children, and the poem clarifies. This is a very strange idea for our modern day world, but this is what they thought. Death is now the phoenix nest, and the turtle's loyal breast to eternity doth rest, leaving no posterity. 'Twas not their infirmity, it was married chastity. So he says the reason they didn't have children, it's not because they're weak. It wasn't because they couldn't have children. It wasn't their infirmity, like maybe they were too old or something. It had nothing to do with that they couldn't have children. They didn't have children because they didn't have sex. Now, obviously, we would consider that to be a pretty serious tragedy if you're in a marriage that doesn't have sex in it. But in the Renaissance imagination of Shakespeare's day, and by the way, Shakespeare did not 100% believe this, but there was a sort of mystical idea. Their love is so pure that they don't need sex to be a part of it. That's coming from Plato, by the way. Plato thought that sort of love was a sort of heavenly thing, and that the bodily appetites of sex were like lower and not as valuable. And so the perfect way to live would be to never have sex and have your love be pure and intellectual and not physical. Now, obviously, Shakespeare didn't think that. The guy wrote Romeo and Juliet, and Romeo and Juliet's love was both intellectual and physical. But there is a philosophical tradition started by Plato that's sort of real pure love is about souls meeting souls, and the body doesn't enter into it. Intellectual love, the physical love, is a lower level and should be avoided because it's a trap for the body and the mind. If you've ever heard of a platonic friendship, which is when you're friends with someone you're not having sex with, it comes from Plato, who believed that sex was a sort of corrupter, and that the real thing you should be paying attention to isn't the body, but the mind and the soul and the intellect. So their love was so the idea, I know it seems ridiculous, but the idea in the poem is their love was so pure that it wasn't sexual. It was like an intellectual love between the souls of the birds, and it wasn't physical, and so there's no children. Um, and then the poem ends. This is how the poem ends. Truth may seem, but cannot be. Beauty brag, but 'tis not she. Truth and beauty buried be. Right, so you may think you see truth out there in the world, and truth has a lot of multiple meanings here. Because one of the truth is the kind of truth Plato was searching after, like let's find out what's true. But truth can also mean faithfulness. To be true to the one you love means not to cheat on them. And there's a whole cluster of meanings floating around there. But the poem ends. Truth may seem, but cannot be. Beauty brag, but 'tis not she. Truth and beauty buried be. So when these birds died, all truth everywhere died. These birds were so beautiful that when they died, all beauty everywhere died. That you may think you see truth, but that can't really be truth because truth died. Truth may seem, but it can't really be. It's not really there. It's not really truth because truth died when these birds died. You may hear people brag about, oh, they're so beautiful. No, they're not. Because when these birds were the real beauty, and when they died, beauty died everywhere. Truth and beauty are buried; they are dead. Okay, and then the poem ends. To this urn, and the urn is where the birds' ashes are. To this urn, let those repair. Repair means to return to. We tend to use repair to mean fix something, like a repair shop will like fix shit. But the word repair literally means to return to where you were before. So when you talk about repairing a toaster, it means make the toaster like it was when you first bought it. But you can also say, let's repair if you're in a room, how do I put this? If you're in one room and then you go into the dining room to have dinner, someone can say, let us repair to the first room, meaning let us return to the first room. Repair means to return, which is why fixing things is to return it to an earlier state. So they say, to this urn, let those repair that are either true or fair. Fair here means beautiful, like my fair lady. The idea the ancient Greeks had was that you guys know fairness meaning like equality and equal. If it's fair, everybody gets the right amount they should get. Fair also means beautiful. They're connected ideas. The ancient Greeks thought that a beautiful person was balanced perfectly. And so fair, meaning equal, balanced, like in the scales of balance, means beautiful. My fair lady is my beautiful lady. This makes sense, actually. If you want to make someone look ugly, if you want to draw a very ugly person, usually they have like one really big eyeball or their ears are too big. Something's out of proportion because beauty means things are in proportion. Okay, cool. All right, actually, I'm gonna continue this in the next video. All right, cool.